I got pregnant and he tried to kick the baby out of me. I'm trying to hurry up and get up the steps. I get in the kitchen. He jumps over my sister, grabs me, takes me by the neck, slams my face on the counter. She got the knife out of my hand. I turned around and I just started whooping on him, just beating it, just scratching, clawing, beating, hitting. It's either me or you. And I had kids to think about. You know, I went to jail for 24 hours.
You spent the night in jail because the person who had been abusing you for so many years forced himself in your house. He filed charges.
Yeah, charge, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's up, beautiful people? It's your favorite light, MB, and the host of the Confidence Way podcast. We are shining light on the darkness that is domestic violence and abuse. Our mission is to educate, empower, and encourage. We are going to educate anyone who has never experienced or just doesn't understand the cycle of being in an abusive relationship. We are here to empower all of our survivors to share your story without shame or guilt. And we are here to encourage anyone who is currently suffering in silence. You are not alone. You are not crazy. Abuse is not normal, and your feelings are valid. So let's get ready to rise above these insecurities, release the burden of shame and guilt, and revive the God-given power, purpose, and passion, the Confidence Way. On our show today, we have our very first guest, Miss Romona Robinson. What's up, sis? Drum roll. Poo! All right, sis, let's light it up. Let's light it up.
Let's do it.
We diving right in. How old were you when you first experienced physical abuse from an intimate partner?
19.
19.
It was my older daughter's father. And me being so naive, self-esteem was on the flow. You know, I thought he was everything. And later I found out, no, ma'am. He was the devil. My second abusive relationship was my first husband, which is my middle daughter and youngest daughter's father. First one, he was more physical.
Mm-hmm.
And the other was he was more mental.
Wow.
So I got it from, both of them did the same thing, but one was more and then the other was more. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
One was like 80% physical, 20% mental. The other was 80% mental, 20% physical.
Exactly. Yep.
So with your first one, when you were 19, how long did it take you to leave?
3 years.
So you were with him for 3 years.
I was with him 3 years. And, when you're in those situations, people on the outside, they always say, it could never be me. I could never stay in a relationship like that. But when you're in it, you're so used to it. You think that they love you. You know what I mean? And again, my self-esteem was so low. I was just looking for that love, and afraid to step. You get used to it, and you're afraid of change. And the thing that made me leave, I got pregnant. Didn't think I would ever be able to get pregnant because of a situation prior to him. And I got pregnant, and he tried to kick the baby out of me. And so I called my mom, and she said, if you don't come home, he's going to kill you. And she didn't even know that prior to that, he had actually put a gun to my head and told me, if you ever leave me, I will kill you. So, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I said, I have to go because it's for her, for her, it's like, and I'm like, how do you get beat up for getting pregnant? You know what I mean? How do you get here? Because you're pregnant.
Let's unpack that for a minute. Let's unpack that. Okay. When he started to kick you,
Mm.
was it that incident? Was that you had just told him you were pregnant and you were early term, or were you later term when he was like, "Nah, we gonna get rid of this"?
Nope. I just found out that day. I just found out that day. My best friend, she came and went to the doctors with me, got the test. We came back to our apartment. I called him and told him he was at work. I
Hmm.
called him and told him, and he cussed me out over the phone. I didn't expect for him to come home and beat me up. I didn't expect that. You know, but he came home. I tried to talk to him about it, and it escalated. And yeah, he beat his sister down. And
Wow.
I did not leave that day. Um, it probably took me a couple of days,
Hmm.
you know, because again, the fear,
Hmm.
they instill that fear in you.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna want you. You can't do nothing without me. You know, all those words, they put all that stuff in your head, and you believe it. When you're with that person for so long, you tend to believe nobody's not gonna want me. He's the only one that loves me. He's the only one that want to deal with me, and you tend to believe it. But like I said, when I called my mom, and she said you have to come home. If you don't come home, he's gonna kill you. So probably I don't know if it was that day or the next day, because I did not know how to drive at the time. You're dealing with a person like that, you got to get an exit strategy, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so my girlfriend came and we packed up as much of my stuff as I could, and I left.
While he was
And
out.
while he was at work, exactly. Hmm. Yep,
Okay. So you said it's a lot. It's a lot.
it
It's a lot
is.
in that little bit of that short. We dealing with a day. Okay. You just said that you called him, you told him that you were pregnant.
Hmm.
He got pissed off. Now,
Hmm.
had y'all ever had a conversation about kids prior to that day?
We did. And he was banking on the fact that I could not have children because of a hospitalization that I had gotten an STD.
Hmm.
I didn't know I had it,
Hmm.
so it sat in me for probably a month before I even knew. And by that time, it traveled to different parts of my body or whatever, and I had to be hospitalized. I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks. They told me that I may not be able to have children because of it. Um, so when I met him, and I told him, what they said, he was banking on the fact that I could not have children because I wasn't getting pregnant. We weren't using protection when me and him started, you know, dating or whatever. We wasn't using any protection. So he was banking on the fact, oh, okay, she ain't got pregnant yet. She ain't gonna get pregnant. We had discussed, the whole having children, pregnancy. He uh Now he was telling me he wanted kids, but again, he was banking on the fact that I could not have them. So he was feeding me. Yeah, we're gonna have a kid, we're gonna have a family, we're gonna be happy, happy, joy, joy, even asked me to marry him and all this good stuff. That ain't what he wanted. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. So he was just telling me what I wanted to hear, just to keep me in that little box, to control me.
When he would tell you those things, did you take them at face value? Like, did you really believe in that moment of your life where you really believe in, okay, he does want to have kids? Or did you know inside, like, nah, he probably really doesn't. And he's just lying to me to keep me here?
No, I didn't think that way. I thought he really wanted to have kids with me. Like I said, he asked me to marry him and everything. I mean, he would do. See, this is how tricky he was. He would do little things to make you, oh my God, he loves me. Then he'd turn around and do something, and then you feel guilty. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
maybe I shouldn't have done that because he did do this for me, and he really do, and it's like these voices back and forth. Like, you don't want to believe that they're this evil person. In one breath, he will say, I want to teach you how to drive so you can have your independence and blah, blah, blah. We go out to try to go driving, and he cussing me out the whole time. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of stuff that he would do. Do all this lovely stuff and then turn around and flip it and do hateful stuff. And that was just to kind of keep you in that
Right.
box, just to keep you, you know.
In the cycle.
Mhm,
And it's
mhm,
crazy, like, because you
mhm,
don't,
mhm, mhm.
as I've been reading more on this and studying more about it, you don't, when you're in it, you don't necessarily see this. I didn't necessarily see the cycle or acknowledge. It's like I witnessed it, I saw it, I experienced
Mhm.
it, but I didn't put two and two together.
Right.
That was my experience. But as you're outside
Mhm.
of it, you can see the pattern. I could see a pattern
Mhm.
happening in my own life. Did anybody,
Mhm.
your mom or your best friend, prior to the pregnant incident, did anybody know you were in an abusive relationship?
I think they knew, but I didn't physically come out and tell them he's abusing me. They knew he was controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody liked him.
Mm,
My family did not like him. My mother, and it's crazy because she was abusive to me. This was my adopted mom, you know. She was abusive to me. So she didn't even like him. Yeah, nobody liked him. They saw his controlling tendencies before me.
okay.
And you know how mothers have this sixth sense of a
Mm-hmm.
man, and you're like, I just love him, and he's so good to me. And your mama like, he ain't good to you, girl. He's controlling you.
Right.
And I fought her tooth and nail. Um, and you know, once I was out, I said, she tried to warn me. They saw it. They didn't know that he was physically putting his hands on me until later, but they all saw the controlling um, a part of him, because I couldn't do nothing without his permission.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't hang out with certain people because he didn't like them, you know, things like that.
They're the same person. Listen, whoever
Telling
is
you.
listening to this right now, whether you have experienced domestic violence or physical abuse, whether you are the abuser, whether you're the one that has someone abused you, or you're just a
Mhm,
friend, or you don't even feel like you know anybody. As I'm studying this and as I'm being able to share my story, I'm realizing that these men and women are the
mhm,
same person, the
mhm,
same
mhm,
character traits, and
mhm.
we overlook. I'm going to speak for myself. I overlooked the character because of my insecurities.
Yes.
Because of my insecurity,
Same.
I
Mhm,
overlooked the character.
mhm. Yep. Me too.
And I would hold on to hope. Like I had it. It's a it's a it's a salad bowl of thoughts that go on in our heads,
Mhm,
and it's a tossed salad. Some days you have hope, some days you like, this ain't it. For me,
mhm.
I knew I didn't deserve it. I knew it wasn't
Right.
right. But then there was like, but maybe because there were sides of him that was like, ain't no way he can't be this person, the good side. There's no way the good can't win over the evil. And I hope that you guys listen to her story. I hope that you listen to Ramona's story and you see her light and you see her strength and her courage, but you understand, if it's confusing or if you're in this situation, a person is never going to change their character
Nope.
unless they're ready to change it, until they see that that character needs to be changed and they're ready
Mhm.
to change it.
When they show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. And do not try to make them into somebody that you hope they were or wish they were, because they're not going to be that person, like you said, until they see it and know, oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm this horrible person. I got to get help. Until they see it, because they don't think that nothing's wrong. They think that they're doing what they're supposed to do as a man, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or woman, um, or person. They're doing what they feel that, or they're doing what they learned.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a learned behavior. In my case, he saw his father abusing his mother, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, in both situations, that's what it was. The father abused the mother, and it some they didn't break that cycle.
Did they ever talk to you about it?
After me,
No, like
or
while you were in a
they're
relationship.
no. Actually, the the first one, his mother told me.
Wow.
But the crazy part about it is, she still condoned him doing it to me. I, I yeah, she
How?
condoned it.
How did she condone it?
Okay, so my life was crazy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I it, I was all over the place. So I ended up living with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I got the one of the worst beatings from him. And after he did it, she said to me, "Well, you stupid for staying with him. I wouldn't stay with him. That's my baby." It's just little stuff like that, instead of getting on him. The only thing that she said to him is, "You're going to get my window fixed too, because you came crashing through my bedroom window." Nothing else. And I'm like, okay, is it me or,
Yeah.
but what do you expect her to say when she, you know, went through
Endured it.
it twice? She had their father and their stepfather.
Oh
She was
my
in two
gracious.
abusive relationships. So, what do you expect her to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's just a cycle with him, his father, and his mother. Even though now eventually his father became a minister, and he told him from his own experience, "You cannot treat this woman like this." Do you think he listened? Mm-mm. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you know. So, um, and it's crazy because he's still a controlling person. I said, I had to let my grandson go because said, I'm not, you're not going to do this. You did this to me for years. You're not going to control me mentally with my grandchild. So I'll just have to back up and let you do what you don't do with your wife. So I'm not that person anymore. It was a long process, but I went through a lot. I went through a lot, still having to deal with him while I was pregnant. And he I've never gotten an apology.
Mm-hmm.
Never. From neither of them. I've never received, "I'm so sorry I did that to you." So again, back to the whole, they're not going to change unless they see what they did was wrong. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get no apology because they don't feel they were wrong for what they did.
Right. So explain to the people, you said you still had to deal with him after you left, while you, like, through the entire pregnancy. What do you mean you had to deal with him?
Um, he would come and go, and then even with me being gone, you know, he still kind of had that hold on me. Then he he would use the baby,
Mhm.
as an excuse. Oh, I'm just checking on you. He was still trying to get in my head mentally, and do little controlling things mentally. At that time, I was a little bit stronger though, you know. I was a lot stronger and was not allowing him to, control what I did, where I went, who because that was what he was trying to do, keep me away from my friends still, and we wasn't even together anymore.
When you were doing your prenatal care and everything,
Well,
so would he just pop up at your
my
mom's
dad's
house?
house. He would just come to my dad's house. This time I was living with my dad. He would come over to my dad's house because he it was a thing where he felt like I don't want her, but I can have her anytime I want to. So it was one of those things. He would try to come over and, have sex or, you know what I mean? Those type things. And it was a whole, I really don't want this woman,
Mhm.
but, you know, I got her mentally so I can do or whatever anytime I want to. He actually said that to me like after the fact. I you know what it is. I'm your first, and I'm always gonna be able to have you. And he really believed that. He really believed it.
Now, how did your dad
You
respond to
know,
this? Was he aware of what was happening when he would come over? Was he even at the house when he would come over?
no, no. My dad, I never really understood it, but my dad would pretty much try to stay out of play the back field, and pretty much let me handle it until um I had to go to court because the last situation, it was I don't even remember what happened, but it was the last situation I pressed charges.
Okay, let's pause for a second.
Hmm.
So you found out you were pregnant.
Hmm.
You were living with your ex at the time. Were you living together when you found out you were pregnant?
Yes.
Then you told him, and that same day he came home and beat you for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then 2, 3 days later, you got you got out of there. You
Yes, I went
felt
to my mother's.
you got out, you went to your mom's, and then at some point were you
Mhm.
still pregnant when you went over to your dad's, or had you already had your daughter?
I was. No,
You
I
still
was.
okay.
I stayed with my mom for a while. Keep in mind, she was abusive too.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed with her for a while. Um, he threatened to come over there. He never
Mm-hmm.
did. But I did press charges. Like once I got to my mom's house or whatever, I did press charges because I was pregnant. And I'm like, you put your hands on me when I'm pregnant. That's a whole different ball game.
Right.
So I did press charges. You know,
Okay.
I stayed with my mom probably for like not long
Yeah.
because we was like oil and water. So I ended up moving in with my dad. And that's where I did majority of my pregnancy. I was with at my dad's house. He knew when my dad wasn't home.
Uh-huh.
So he would come over when my dad wasn't home. Now, when it came to us, he had got locked up. He had gotten arrested. Um, I was still pregnant. At my dad's, he had got arrested and was calling me to drop the charges so that he could get out.
Mm-hmm.
His
Was he
father.
was he arrested because of the charges you had filed, or was he arrested because of something?
Mhm. Yeah. He had a warrant. And with a warrant is if you can't catch the person, that the warrant just gonna sit in the system. So I don't know what he did to get picked up, but whatever he did, he got arrested. He was sitting in jail. He tried to get me to drop the charges. And that's when my dad was like, no. His father even told me, nope, let him sit in there. Let him sit in there. And that's why I say the whole mental trying to stay in my head, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when he called trying to get me out, it's like, should I get him out? And my dad saw that and he was like, no, no, he needs to pay for what he did, you know. And then when his father said, no, let him sit in there because his father wouldn't even bail him out. His father said, I'm not getting him out. But yeah, that's how that went. And then when she was born, he didn't have anything to do with her. He wasn't even there when she was born. His mother was on the phone, again, making excuses for him. Oh, he if there's a football team in heaven, he's gonna be there. And it's like that's why he do what he do, because he was a mama's boy and she condoned everything.
Did a part of you want him to be there at your daughter's birth?
I did. I
Why
did.
do you why do you think you wanted that?
I don't know. I honestly I don't know. Just because he was the father, and I felt like you're the dad, you're supposed to be here with me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make her by myself,
Mm-hmm.
but knowing that he didn't want her in the same breath, I understood. Now he did come up hours after I had her, went to the nursery to see her, came back and said to me, I can't believe you had a girl. He didn't want a girl. He didn't want any baby, but because she was a girl, you know, he didn't really want to deal with her. So that was pretty much one of the last times he was in her life until she got a little bit older. So yeah.
When you were laying in that hospital bed, you had just
Mhm,
delivered her. She's in the nursery.
mhm, mhm.
You're in the room, and he comes in. Can you put us in the mental and emotional state that you were in when you saw him walk through the door after he had done everything to you, after you had pressed charges, after he threatened to kill you, after he went to jail? How were you feeling in that moment after you just had this beautiful experience with giving birth to your daughter?
When he walked through the door, a piece of me was happy, but majority of me was angry. And then I later found out he brought another woman up to the hospital with him. She didn't come in my room, but she was in the waiting room. I found out that a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
So a piece of me was happy, like, oh, he came, but then the majority of it was like, wait a minute, you know, how dare you? How dare you? And that anger took over, you know. And then when he was saying that, you know, I can't believe I got a daughter and was angry about it. I'm sitting there looking at him like, are you serious right now? And I said, well, she don't need you. We're good. We're good. And I never asked him for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Never. You know, I never begged him to be in her life. When he left that day, he left kind of chuckling, laughing a little bit. And I said, okay, you know, I was good at that point. At that point, it was like I was healing.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was
Yeah.
healing. Let's put it that way. You know, um, I think I was more angry about the fact that you wasn't here when she was born, but then you come, and not only do you come, you bring your woman with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, that was like a slap in the face to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, a piece of me was happy, you know, but the majority of me was not.
So let's pause on homeboy for a minute.
I
How
love
do
that
you,
homeboy.
that's the thing. Hey, y'all listen. So anytime we're talking about someone, we're not mentioning it unless someone just specifically wants to mention their name. We're not mentioning names on shows.
Mhm.
Y'all want to go do y'all research and try to figure it out. You get your Matlock, you get your whatever you need, NCIS toolkit, and you go figure it out. You do what you get your Inspector Gadget and your Sherlock Holmes. You got it. But
Mhm.
homeboy is what it is, okay? They
Mhm.
homeboys because
Yes,
God said,
ma'am.
bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse them. So I'm gonna do my curse nobody. And I just felt like homeboy was it was just a good mediocre tag.
It is.
It
It
is,
is.
it works. It would look. Sister Romona said it works, so it worked. You hear me? Prior to being with him, so before you were 19,
Mhm.
how did you feel about who you were? Because you had mentioned before you had low self-esteem. How did you feel about who you were? Like, show us who you were, even with the low self-esteem. What was your character like? What was your social life like? Did you interact with anybody else? What was going on?
I was in a horrible mental state. Like I said, I was adopted. I was fostered until I was 5 by my mom and dad. I was legally adopted when I was 5. My adopted mom was the worst person that anybody could ever be raised by. So that technically is where the abuse started in my life. Now, my adopted dad, he was everything, but he was disabled, so he could only do so much. So, but to me, that was my daddy, and could nobody tell me that he loved me. I was his tippy toes. Growing up, though, I didn't have very many friends. Elementary school, I was the skinny kid that everybody picked on. I mean, I was like this skinny, like everybody picked on me. I got picked on a lot. Um, Going into junior high school, I was bullied. I didn't like being home, so I looked forward to going to school to get out of the house, but I didn't want to go to school because of my bully. So I was quiet. I was not the person you know, baby. I was quiet. I was shy. Boys did not like me because I was this skinny kid. Um, Now, I did have friends. I had a couple of friends, but they didn't really want to have you. I couldn't really do anything. You know what I mean? Because she was so strict. I didn't get to go to high school football games. I didn't get to go to homecoming. I didn't get to go to the basketball games and the talent shows that everybody. I ran track, and she pulled me out of that. You know, um, I had my sisters, but she took them away from me. You know what I mean? So, um, up until that, I was just a mess. I met my birth mom when I was 12. She, in turn, introduced me to my birth dad because I thought another person was my birth dad, and she shut that down. So, that was a good thing in my life until it wasn't. I was not a social butterfly. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have much of a social life. I didn't have boyfriends. I didn't, my self esteem was so low. The first boy that looked at me, I was just, oh my God, he thinks I'm pretty, you know.
Yeah.
And I was 14, he was 16. This boy was ugly as I don't know what, but he liked me. You know what I mean? He liked me. And when his cousins came and told me that he was murdered, I was devastated. I was devastated because I'm like, that's the first boy that liked me. And he's gone. My mom teased me about it. You know, I mean, um, yeah, I didn't have much of a social life. Like I said, my self-esteem was on the floor because I didn't think I was pretty. I didn't think I was pretty. People didn't tell me I was pretty. I didn't have a mom to say, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." That's why I tell my daughters they're grown, and I still tell them they are beautiful. Even when I met my birth mom, she was okay, but she was an alcoholic, and meeting her, it was a good thing, but then it was like, oh my God, did we dodge a bullet? I don't know if it would have been worse living with her or living with her. You know what I mean? So it was crazy. My dad, he was a Rolling Stone. So, girl, I'm telling you, it took me a long time to get to where I am now.
But you here?
Yeah.
Dear God, you here?
It took me a long time,
Wow.
but I am. It took 16 years worth of therapy.
But you got it, girl. You got
Hmm.
it. So you had low self-esteem when you met homeboy. Do
Hmm.
you feel like it got lower while you were with him?
I don't feel like it could have got any lower, honestly, because if you're accepting that, you know
Mhm.
what I mean. How low can it get? Um, and I feel like by the time I got with second homeboy, my
Homeboy number two.
homeboy number two, I feel like I was a little bit more independent. See, when I was with the first homeboy, I was not independent. I depended on him for everything. Once I left him and it was me and my daughter, I had to depend on me because it was just me and her. So when I met homeboy number two, you know, I had went through my little freedom phase. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then I got tired of that, the partying and all that stuff. And then I met him, and it's like, okay, I met this one, and he seems nice, and he's handsome, and blah 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 blah, and not so much. But it's crazy because it was like I took his abuse, but I didn't take it. It was like, you know, I for the first so many years, I took it
Hmm.
because I gotten pregnant probably 4 months into the relationship, if that long. Um, and at one of my appointments, I found out that he had given me something, and it was like I am never going to be able to be with anybody outside of him. You know, so that was the reason that I stayed with him.
Mm.
I felt like my life is over. I'm never going to be able to be with anybody. Nobody's not going to want to be with me. You know, so I stayed. You know, he was probably the worst of the worst because he was just insecure and jealous and just angry.
Pause. Let's pause. Let's. I think I need a half or a full. I don't know which one, but let's pause on that because y'all don't understand. And it took me until being away from him and starting my own healing journey.
Hmm.
And I hear it in you too, that you see that the issue is never you. Now,
Hmm.
you're doing it right now, and I'm going to take responsibility on my insecurities, and the
Hmm.
decisions I made from insecurities is what got me there and kept me there.
Correct. Hmm.
But the reason that they do what they do, the reason that they have to have control, the reason that they feel like they have to have abuse because they have to have control is
Hmm.
because they're insecure.
Hmm.
They have their own insecurities that they're trying to hide by this
Hmm.
false sense of
Hmm.
masculinity.
Hmm. Hmm.
When in the wild, the way God created it, you
Hmm.
got the beasts, you got lions, you got tigers, you got bears. Oh my, you got gorillas.
Hmm.
They're not abusing their mates.
Mm-hmm.
The most powerful creatures on earth aren't back. You don't see it. I don't know. I'm not a natural geographist,
Right.
but I've never heard of a male gorilla backhanding the mother of his children,
Right.
or the mother of the pride or the herd or whatever they're called. I've never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the most powerful beasts on earth.
Mm-hmm.
But those animals are operating in confidence. They're leaders with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, these homeboys and homegirls that are out there trying to be leaders are doing it from a place of, you're going to respect me. I demand your respect. I don't have to earn it. And they
Yep.
get that because they know that there's a lot of weakness in them and they're trying to hide it. They're trying to mask it.
He had a lot of jealousy in him too. Sometimes that's what it be too. They're intimidated by that woman.
Mm-hmm.
They're intimidated by that woman's strength, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I was strong, but weak at the same
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. Um, when I met him, I had my own place.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good job. I was doing my thing with my daughter. It was me and my baby. I didn't want him to move in with me, but somehow he ended up in there. You know what I mean? Um,
Pause. Wait. We can't roll over that. We can't roll over that. So he moves in with you. Were y'all pregnant already at this time? Or had y'all not been? Y'all hadn't gotten pregnant?
um, no, I was pregnant. It started out. Now, mind you, he lived in Dayton.
Okay.
Okay? So it started out him just coming down and spending the weekend.
How far away is Dayton from where you were living?
Oh, I keep forgetting, girl. We are in daggone Alabama. Child, woo,
What year? Listen, we
telling
gotta
these
give everybody
stories.
geography. We gotta give a geography lesson real quick.
Yes, girl, telling these stories, it put me back in Cincinnati.
Right,
It
right,
really
right.
did. My mindset, I was in Cincinnati
Yeah,
telling you these stories. And
yeah.
that's crazy. That's really crazy. Dayton was like 45 minutes away from. Before I knew it, he was there all the time and then moved in. You know what I mean?
Did he have his own place in Dayton?
No, no, he was living with his dad. That's where I said the whole jealousy, you know, and intimidation came from
Who was he jealous of?
me.
So he wasn't jealous of you socializing with any other friends. He wasn't jealous of you
Oh yeah, he was
socializing.
jealous of all of that too. Yeah. But I feel like he came in and wiggled his way in because I had my own. He didn't.
Oh,
And he wanted to take over what I had.
they're the same person. Y'all, listen, she's literally reading. If this was Jumanji and you hit the man's chest and you wanted to see his character traits, she's literally reading the character traits of these abusive people.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't got their own spot. Mine didn't. I didn't have my own place, but he didn't. But this ain't my story. This your
No,
story.
you good. Yeah.
Jealous of your ability to socialize. But that's the
Mm-hmm.
crazy thing, because with me, that's what attracted him to me,
Mm-hmm.
was the strength, the smartness, the intellect,
Mm-hmm.
the way that you can mix and mingle, the way that people like you. Like, they're attracted to this spirit. And let me tell you what I learned. They're attracted to the spirit. And when we have insecurities and this spirit, we're a host and they're a parasite.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they come in, they attach themselves to our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do that, they're just draining the life source out of us. And this is what happens. You can see it in any relationship that is abusive. That person is either going to drain the life out of the host, literally
Mm-hmm.
kill the person, or the host is somehow going to shake loose and that parasite is going to find another host.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They are parasites,
Mm-hmm.
and they take your light and they suck you into their darkness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you know what we're going to do on this show? Light it up.
Light it up.
We lighten it up. Okay, so he was jealous of you, of what you had, of how
Mm-hmm.
you were living, of
Mm-hmm.
your relationships with other people, and he
Mm-hmm.
just weaseled his way on in there. He convinced you. Did y'all even have a real conversation about it?
No, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Mm-mm. You know how you look up and you like, when you move in? You know, it was like
Wow.
we looked up like, when did this happen?
Wow.
And by that time I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I didn't experience the whole with the baby daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so you see how these two situations are the same are different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First one, I depended on him. This one, I depended on me.
Mm-hmm.
He depended on me to lift him up. So, you know, I'm pregnant and I'm like, well, he here now. He might as well stay, you know, um, because again, I didn't know how to drive at the time. So he was driving me everywhere I needed to go, you know, all of that. So,
Hold on.
you
So
know,
how old are you now? So you
I was, how old was I when I had Heaven? She's 27. I might have been like 28. No, maybe 20. I don't know if I was in my 30s yet. Hold on, hold on. I don't
pull
know.
out the
Let's
calculator.
see, I was 23 when I had Brianna.
Okay, so
And
you met first homeboy number one at 19.
mm-hmm,
Then you got pregnant and you gave birth to your first daughter at 23.
yeah, mm-hmm,
Started feeling like we were healing and getting better. And a
mm-hmm,
good 3-4 years had passed before you had gotten into another serious relationship, quote unquote.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
let's see, I was 23. I was like 25 when I met him,
Okay.
boy number two. I was like 25 um when I met him. And I believe I had Heaven when I was 26 or 27.
Okay.
So somewhere around there.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, you know, I had family because when I met my dad, that was a whole nother family that I had. When
Mm-hmm.
I met my birth mom, that was a whole nother some other siblings. You know, my sisters, we were all you know, adopted by the same lady. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so she didn't split us up, which was a beautiful thing. But
Right.
we were split from our brothers. So, you know, I had all this family. You know what I mean? He didn't have family like that because really nobody wanted to deal with him because he was such an ignorant person. Nobody really wanted to deal with him. He was disrespectful. Again, angry, you know, just angry, had no respect for women. I found this out as time went on.
And did you say that he too was abused when he was younger?
Yes,
Okay.
verbally by his father. And his
Verbally.
father, you know, his father told him, you don't want to be like me. You don't want to be like me. Don't be like me. Please don't be. You might want to bleep that wolf part out. Because I didn't mean to do that.
My
That
brain was
just came
already,
out, you
I was
know.
already thinking.
But, you know, his dad told him, you you need to be respectful to your wife. You know,
Right.
don't do what I did. If I could get the time back to love my wife, I would do it all over again. You know,
Mhm.
I would take it all back and do it better. You know,
Did his mom stay with his dad or did she
his,
leave?
his mom committed suicide when he was two. When he was 2 years old, and his mom committed suicide. So he never really got to know his mom.
Did he have another wife? Did his dad have another wife? Step.
No, never.
So he didn't really, unless he developed core memories, he didn't really witness the abuse, but he did.
He didn't witness his father abusing his mother, but his father abused him.
Oh, okay.
His father was very mean and verbally abusive and physically abusive to him. But he felt like he didn't look at it as abuse. He
Mhm.
looked at it as discipline.
Right.
His father was now his father was in the military
Mm,
and he had mental issues. So he felt like his father was being the best dad that he knew how to be and was just disciplining. He was giving him that tough love and that tough discipline. And I'm like, fool, that was abuse. You know, if your father is picking you up while you on the bike and slamming you to the ground, that's not discipline, babe. That's abuse. You know, and he carried those same traits. It's crazy because the story with him angers me more than the first one. When I was done with homeboy number one, he didn't stalk me. He didn't try to keep up with me. He just left me alone. When we were done, we were done. Any dealings, it was only about our daughter. But with this one, it was never over. Even when we were divorced, it was never over because we had children and he used those girls as pawns and he, you know, he disrespected me and he um just stalked me. Like when we separated, he stalked me, like literally stalked me. And I tell you something, the judicial system sucks when it comes to abuse or domestic violence. The judicial system sucks. You literally have to be half beaten before they do anything for you. You know, you literally have to have um, physical proof that they are abusive. So I had to deal with him, you know, even after we separated. We were married for, I want to say 7 years, maybe something
mm,
like that. I don't even, a girl, I haven't lost track. Um, but even after, we separated, and let me say this: when God opens up that door for you to run through it, you better run through it to get away from that person. Run. Sometimes people are in these situations and they're like, should I go? Should I stay? Should I go? Should I stay? Baby, look, when he said to me, I want to separate for 6 months, blah, 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 I didn't hear nothing after that. Okay. I was out.
mhm,
But I still was stuck because I had the kids.
mhm.
And he played that I want to see my kids role. You know, um, still being abusive, calling me names, and I was this and I was that, and he's saying it to the kids. So, not only now, he's not only mentally abusing me, he's mentally abusing them by disrespecting me to them. I hate to say this, but I do not like that man. I tolerate him when I have to. Like if the last time I had to be around him, my daughter's graduation. I'll tolerate you, but I don't like you at all.
What attracted you to him in the beginning?
Girl, his looks.
Okay.
I'm not
But
even
it,
gonna
but
lie.
they'll hook, line, and sinker
And
you
then if
every
you look at
time,
it
right?
now, you're like, girl, what was you thinking? I'm telling you. If you see him now, you'll be like, sis,
Ain't no way.
come on, man.
But back in the day though,
Back in the day,
he had it. He
he was
had that
different.
brick.
Light skinned brother. Honestly, I don't even know. Maybe I was just desperate. I ain't even gonna lie to you because I don't even. It was just the whole. Oh, he's cute. He comes over to the car. You get to talking, da da da, da, and it just. And before you know it, you're in a relationship that you don't even know how you got into.
Did he ever treat you with respect before you got pregnant? Like, were there any other signs
There
besides?
were, I mean, there were some respectful times. He wasn't always a jerk, but as time went on, it got worse and worse and worse. And by that time, I was already pregnant, stuck. I felt stuck because
Mhm.
of the other situation. You know, when when I went to the doctor and the doctor said, I'm like, say that again. So I'm looking at him like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
You know, because it came from him.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm like, I'm stuck. It mentally, I felt like I'm stuck. I can't. Nobody ain't gonna. I'm like damaged goods now. Nobody's
Mhm.
gonna want me. So I felt stuck. I felt stuck. We get married. Here come baby number two. Nothing's getting better. I get pregnant again, but I had a miscarriage. And I'm gonna say this: I've never been so sad and happy at the same time. I said God knew what he was doing when he took that baby. He
That's
knew what he was doing because he knew what was coming. He knew he was about to open that door for me to walk through. He knew it. So, of course, I was sad. Of course, I was hurt. Of course, I was, but at the same time, I was like, "Ooh, hallelujah. Thank you. You spared me from being stuck with this man for another so many years." Once I got away from him, I never looked back. Never looked back. And I was a lot stronger. Still met some losers, but I
yeah.
wasn't as dumb. He was the worst one. He was the worst one, and he still when I met my current husband, it was horrible. Yeah, when I met bro, it was horrible.
Your mindset.
His mindset, second
Oh, okay.
homeboy.
Yeah,
That's
homeboy.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's why my feelings towards him is the way I can I can actually have a conversation with the first one now.
Uh-huh.
Homeboy number one,
Yeah.
I can actually have somewhat of a conversation with him. This one, I don't want to have no conversation with you.
Was he trying to do anything to sabotage your current relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
Like
Yes,
what?
ma'am. My second when he tried to sabotage my second marriage and this marriage. Yes. That's why I'm saying that's why my feelings for him is I try not to say the H word,
Mm-hmm.
but I strongly dislike that man. And I have to pray. I really do have to pray that thing away.
This is clearly years later.
Mhm,
Outside of
mhm,
outside of
mhm,
using the kids as pawn in his game to
mhm,
continue to control you, what
mhm.
tactics was he using to get to you with your other marriages?
My second marriage, he was just making stuff up. Calling the police, telling the police that he was a drug dealer, calling the police, telling the police that him and his son tried to fight him, just coming over, just popping up at the house whenever he felt like it. You know, I'm their daddy, and again using that whole I'm their daddy, and the court said that I can come and blah 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 blah. Just that whole thing. Nobody ever stood up to him. No guy that I ever dated in between, nobody, they just rather not deal with me. They're like,
Right.
I don't want to deal with that. So we can't see each other. I cried a lot of nights like I'm never going to be able to be with anybody until I met my baby.
Mm-hmm.
till I met bro. He was the first and only man that ever stood up to this man and told him, "You will not disrespect her. She is no longer your wife. She is my wife. And you will not disrespect her." And yes, honey, they almost came to blows. It was ugly before it wasn't. And he still was trying little stupid stuff, you know? But that's what happens when they know
Yeah.
that was a good woman. I screwed it up and they don't want to let go.
Out of both of your situations, was there ever a time that you reached out to any organizations that could help? I mean, you already mentioned how the police didn't help you
Hmm.
because you ain't have any physical proof. But were
Hmm.
there any domestic violence women's support organizations that you reached out to, and how was your experience with those?
Well, when I was going through the divorce process, um, that's when I got all of the help. Finally, did get a restraining order. Now, I got the restraining order, but I was arrested in the process. Okay. Because we're separated, but he was still antagonizing me. So he come over one day and my sister was alive and she was living with me and her two boys was living with me. He, you know, the night before he had came over trying to force himself on me. I called the police. Police came. I told him what happened. He said, if he comes back, you have a right to defend yourself. I cannot guarantee you won't go to jail, but you won't stay there.
Oh, wait. Okay. Let's pause. Let's slow it down. Okay, you said he tried to force himself on you sexually or abusive,
Mhm,
physically abusive.
both. Yes, ma'am.
Was he drunk?
No, ma'am. He just crazy. No,
So,
he really is cuckoo though, for real. Yeah.
so at any time after you've been separated, had he ever tried to force himself on you prior to that night?
Oh,
And he shows up at your house, you go to answer the door?
the only reason why I opened the door is because everybody was asleep. I didn't want him to wake up the kids. I didn't want him, I didn't want my sister to wake up and see what was going on or whatever. So even though she did,
Right.
um, he was banging on the door, ringing the doorbell. I didn't want the kids to wake up and witness none of that. Thank God they didn't. Um, so I got the police there. When it's a domestic violence case, you going to jail. It's gonna happen. Um, but like he said, you ain't gonna stay there. And
Okay. Can I pause you? I need
mhm,
I need I need a little more clarification. In your
mhm,
experience in Cincinnati,
mhm.
your abuser, who you are now separated or y'all are in the process of getting the
At
divorce,
this time, we were in the process of getting the divorce.
comes to your house,
Mhm.
you open the door, he forces himself in and tries to force himself on you. Somehow how did you get the police there?
He ended up leaving because he knew the police was coming.
Why did he know the police were coming?
I was on the phone with
Okay.
him. Yeah, I had gotten away from him and got to the phone and called the police. So he
Okay.
knew they was coming. So he ended up leaving.
The police show up.
The police show up.
You
He
explain
gone.
you explain to them what happened.
Hmm.
And their response to you letting them know that your abuser for X number of years showed up to your house, tried to force himself on you sexually and physically, left. He said, you have every right to defend yourself, but because it's a domestic violence case, even though you're defending yourself, you're going to go to jail.
No, he said I cannot promise that you won't go to jail. He said, but if you do, you won't stay there long. So of course, in my mind, I'm like, well, should I defend myself or not? Because I don't want to go to jail. So the next day, He did exactly what they said. If he comes back and forces himself in, and so he did that.
Did you answer the door this time?
He no, he I was trying to close the door, and he was a big dude.
Mm-hmm.
So he pushed the door open and forced his way in.
When he showed up the next night, the second night, when he
Second
showed
day.
up,
Hmm.
does he have a key or anything to your
No,
place?
no.
So how did the door get open? Did you
I
answer
was
it? Was
going.
it
Okay, me and my sister had went to the store.
uh-huh?
When I pulled in the driveway, he whipped in behind me
Oh
before we even got out the car.
my. Mm-hmm.
We were trying to hurry up and get out the car and hurry up and get in the garage in the door.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get in quick enough. We trying to shut the door. He pushes the door open, forces
Mm-hmm.
his way in. He knows I'm looking for the phone. He grabs the phone from my nephew, sticks it in his pocket. I can't get to the phone. Can't get to my cell phone because it's in my purse. I'm trying to hurry up and get up the steps. I get in the kitchen. He jumps over my sister, grabs me, takes me by the neck, slams my face on the counter. Okay. They're trying to pull him off of me. They can't get him off. So, how I ended up going to jail was he's light bright. Once he let his grip up, I grabbed a knife,
Mm-hmm.
and my sister knocked the knife out of my hand. She said, "No, I, I cannot lose you." So she got the knife out of my hand. I turned around and I just started whooping on him, just beating it, just scratching, clawing, beating, hitting. He light bright.
Mm-hmm.
He got bruises. He got scratches. He goes to the police, files a report. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because all that's in my mind is what that police officer said. You have a right to defend yourself. So that's what I was doing, you know. And he filed charges against me. And the police had came that day. They told me you need to go down Monday morning and file a restraining order. I did
Mm-hmm.
that. Okay. Filed the restraining order. When I got to the place to for the court, to see the magistrate, he comes in and he raising all kinds of hell. And I'm like, what is going on? The sheriff comes down. He says, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Apparently he filed some charges against you, and he wants you arrested, but they couldn't find the warrant in the system." Okay. He takes my ID, he looks it up. There was no warrant. We go into the courtroom. By the time we came out the courtroom, now I was granted the restraining order. By the time I came out the courtroom, it was a sheriff on this side and the sheriff on this side. And he said, "I'm so sorry. The warrant came through." So they had to arrest me. So that was the whole, you won't stay, you might go to jail, you won't stay there. I didn't stay there long. I was in there for 24 hours. It's either me or you. And I had kids to think about. You know, I went to jail for 24 hours.
You spent the night in jail
Yes, ma'am.
because the person who had been abusing you for so many years
Mhm.
forced himself in your house, slammed you, you defended yourself, and he filed a restraining order.
No, I found the restraining order
You
against
filed a
him.
restraining order,
He
he filed charges.
got charged. Yeah. Hmm.
There are so many different reasons why people who are being abused
Hmm.
don't go to the police.
That's what I was saying. The justice system sucks.
Because and in your case, as jacked up as it was, you were still safe.
Hmm.
In a lot of other cases, they'll go, they'll file a report, they'll file charges, they'll get a restraining order, and homeboy left to roam the streets. And a piece of paper ain't gonna stop nobody from putting their fist in your face.
Nope.
Because when you have that mindset and you're conditioned to be that way, and that's at the
Mhm.
core of your character,
Mhm.
these don't really scare you.
Mm-mm. No, they don't.
Because you're operating off of rage or whatever is inside of you that you haven't healed from yourself. Because you can't, I don't believe that you can find anyone who abuses people and they don't have trauma that they haven't healed from.
Right.
And
Right.
the problem is their lack of healing becomes someone else's burden.
Yep.
I just needed to pause that. I needed to break that down for my folks out there that's listening, because this is just the first episode, y'all. This is just the first episode. And she did what she needed to. She followed police order and was told flat out, I can't guarantee you that you won't go to get arrested for protecting yourself. And sure enough, the very next day, she gets arrested the same day she files a restraining order. That's bananas in pajamas, y'all. That's bananas in pajamas.
It is. It really is, and that's one reason why I say the justice system really it's 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 sometimes it's a joke.
Right.
It can be a joke, because there has been women that went to file for a restraining order and they did not get it because there was not enough physical evidence that this person was stalking them, or they didn't have enough documentation showing that this person should not be afraid of this person, and then the person might end up dead somewhere you know
Yeah. Yeah.
My case didn't turn out that way, thank God. But what if
Amen.
it would have? You know? So I mean, I still had to do jail time, even though it was 24 hours. That was the longest 24 hours of my life.
I can't even imagine.
It was the longest, you know. And the whole time I'm in there, and I'm like, I am not gonna cry. He is not gonna win. I will not let him win. You know, I did not cry until I got home behind my bedroom door. That's when I let it all out. But you feel like I have to be strong. I have to be strong. I have to be strong. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, you were strong, but you still, you know, went through what, you still had to go to jail.
Did you press charges on him or just file a restraining order?
At that time, I just filed a restraining order, because the charges was already filed. When he came over and did what he did, the
The
charges
first
was already
time.
filed. Yeah,
So
they
did
were
he
already
never go
filed,
to jail? Did
and
they
we did have
arrest
to go to
him?
court for it. We had to go to court.
But did he get arrested?
No, he didn't. We did end up in court, but he didn't get arrested.
So explain to
Um,
the audience what it means for him to be subpoenaed after you got filed a restraining order.
he okay. When you file a restraining order, you don't just you know you get like a temporary one until you go to court.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to subpoena him or send the they have to give him a copy of what I filed. So
Right.
that's the subpoena with the court date and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he can show up to court for the restraining order. He was subpoenaed on his job
Okay.
because that was the only address that I had at that time.
Okay.
That's how that went. We did have to go to court for um, the domestic violence part. We had to go to court because he filed charges on me. So when we went to court, the charges was dropped against me
Mm-hmm.
because they looked at me and they looked at him and they asked him. They said, "Sir, are you seriously filing charges against her?" They're looking at him and they're looking at me because he's a big dude. I'm this little person, you know. And once he got to see, he talks so much, he talked himself out of stuff. And once he got to talking, they already knew he full of crap,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew that he was just trying to trying to punish me, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Those judges, they're not stupid. Once you get in front of a real judge, not those magistrates, they know. They didn't seen this before. So they had, everything laid out right there. They knew what was going on, and he tried to, argue his way out of it. And they said, first of all, you shouldn't have been in her house.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have forced your way into her house, and he tried the same thing the other one did, tried to get me to drop the charges. No. Once everything, he wanted me to go in there and tell them that I did not want him to do any jail time. He didn't do any jail time, but not because I said it. And I was a little upset that he didn't do jail time.
I don't know who wouldn't be upset, and you
And
did.
right. And that's why I say, the legal system really sucks. It really do. It really sucks. They find him. They find him. God opens doors. You have to see that open door and
Mm-hmm.
go through it. All situations are not the same. Um, and they're not always easy. But, you know, I was, still go through even though it may not turn out the way you wanted to, but still always have a paper trail. Always, a file chart, or have that restraining order. Once you getting ready to leave, when you get ready to leave and you want to leave, and that there is things going on, you know, get that restraining order. You know, that way you do have that paper trail. You know, don't not call the police because of somebody else's story,
Mm-hmm.
because somebody else's story is different. Like you said, everybody's story is different, but it's still the same core situation. You know, reach out to a, because I had a thing called legal aid. Find out your um, crisis centers or help centers or whatever it is that your city or state or whatever have. Mine was legal aid. That helped me. We have a women helping women crisis center. If you have one, go to it. Call them. Reach out to them. You know, um, they can be very helpful. You know, in that sense.
Okay.
Don't keep it from your family. Don't hide it. Don't keep it from your family. If you have a family that is supportive, go to your family and let them help you through it.
Do you feel like you fully healed from the trauma that you've experienced?
I do feel like I am healed. I had to go to therapy. Therapy is a beautiful thing, and go as long as you need to go. I was in therapy for 16 years. That's a long time. And it took me the entire 16 years to feel like I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good, and I feel like I am good, you know. Um, I don't feel like I would be who I am right now without that therapy. That therapy helped me with my childhood trauma and my adult trauma and everything in between. So, because of that, I do feel like I am healed. Um, you know, from that part, there may be little things that happen after that with you, that don't have nothing to do with that. It might just be new things that you're going through or dealing with. You know, that's okay. But that past trauma, yes, I am good with that.
How do you feel about who you are? Where's your self-esteem, your confidence, the character, the person you are now? How is that different post surviving abuse versus where you were going through the decades of abuse that you had gone through?
My self esteem is great. There was a time that I would not even take a picture. I would not even look at myself in the mirror. Now, you already know where I'm going.
Baby, Amira, I hate to see you coming. You be
Oh,
walking, you be walking neck up at the Target, looking in the. Oh, wait a minute, child. Okay, the
girl, I don't know. Just tell them, go to her social media page, look at all them pictures. Honey, I love me.
love you,
I
sis,
love looking at me.
baby.
I'm telling you, I would not. And back in the day, I wouldn't smile. I just, I felt so ugly. Now, no, ma'am.
Ain't
I'm
nobody
the
tell you
most
nothing.
beautiful thing walking God's green earth. And can't nobody tell me different.
Talk that talk. Talk that
So,
talk.
yes,
My
yes.
sis, Romona. Oh my gosh. I appreciate your whole life. I appreciate your light. I appreciate you, your strength, and your courage to share your story so that we can help educate, empower, and encourage anyone who's dealing with it, doesn't understand it, or is dealing with it from a peripheral space and not directly. Thank you so much for
Thank
being my very
you.
first guest on the Confidence Way podcast.
Girl,
It's
thank
been
you for having me and thank you for letting me share my story. This helped me as well as anybody else.
amen.
Believe me.
Amen.
So, yes, thank you for having me, hon. And I will be more than happy to come
I heard that. Listen, it's still some buckets we can dig in.
back. Girl, look, I
Shoot.
told you 45 minutes ain't enough time. Shoot.
It's some buckets we can dig in. It is all good. Y'all, we're just here shedding some light on the darkness that is abuse, domestic violence, and abusive relationships. And we just want to help people have a safe platform to share their story, to rise above their insecurities, to restore themselves, to release the shame and the guilt of being in an abusive relationship, staying in an abusive relationship for however long they stay, and to revive their God given power, purpose, and passion the confidence way. Tune in next week. We're going to have a new one for you. In the meantime, in between time, she gone. Let's light it up.